Richard Allen was born into slavery on the property of Benjamin Chew in Delaware. At a young age, he and his family were sold to Stokely Sturgis, a plantation owner. Tragically, Richard's mother and two of his siblings were sold separately, leaving him with only his older brother and sister. Despite his circumstances, Allen found solace and inspiration in the Methodist faith, which was open to both enslaved and free black people. Encouraged by his enslaver, Sturgis, who was not yet converted, Allen began attending Methodist meetings and, through his own determination, taught himself to read and write. In 1780, after hearing the preaching of the Reverend Freeborn Garrett's son, who was advocating for the abolition of slavery, Allen's enslaver, Sturgis, was moved to consider the immorality of slavery. He offered Allen the opportunity to purchase his freedom, and after working extra hours, Allen earned enough to buy his own freedom. It was at this point that he changed his name from a Negro Richard to Richard Allen. This marked the beginning of his journey to leadership and independence. Richard Allen's personal life was closely intertwined with his work in the church. He married Flora in 1790, and they worked together on the early development of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Sadly, Flora passed away in 1801, but Allen later remarried Sarah Bass, a former enslaved woman from Virginia. Together, they had 6 children, and Sarah became an active and important figure in the AME Church, often referred to as the founding mother. Richard Allen's ministry began in earnest after his conversion to Methodism at the age of 17. He became an ordained preacher at the famous 1784 Christmas Conference in Baltimore, which marked the founding of the Methodist Episcopal Church in America. However, as a black man, Allen faced significant limitations. He was allowed to preach at 5 a.m. services that were predominantly attended by black people, but was restricted from taking part in regular church activities with white congregants. Despite these challenges, Allen's influence grew, and by 1786, he began preaching at St. George's Methodist Episcopal Church in Philadelphia. However, tensions grew between Allen and the white leadership of the church, especially when they began to segregate the black worshippers. In 1787, Allen and fellow preacher Absalom Jones led a group of black parishioners out of St. George's to form their own independent congregation. This led to the creation of the Free African Society, FAS, which served as both a mutual aid society and a place of worship. The FAS played a key role in assisting fugitive slaves and newcomers to Philadelphia, and it laid the groundwork for the establishment of what would later become the African Methodist Episcopal Church. In 1794, Allen purchased land in Philadelphia, where he founded Mother Bethel AME Church, which would become the spiritual home of the new denomination. The church's location on 6th Street remains the oldest continuously owned property by African Americans in the United States. Allen's most significant achievement came in 1816, when, after years of organizing and building relationships, he led the establishment of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, AME. This marked the first independent black denomination in the United States. The AME Church was founded on the principles of religious freedom, self-governance, and empowerment for black people in a time when they were excluded from most white-dominated religious institutions. On April 10, 1816, at a conference in Philadelphia, Allen was elected the first bishop of the AME Church, a role he would hold for the next 15 years until his death in 1831. In addition to his work as a religious leader, Richard Allen was deeply involved in the abolitionist movement. In 1799, he and 69 other black Philadelphians petitioned Congress to end the international slave trade and to work toward the gradual emancipation of enslaved people in the United States. Although their petition was rejected by Congress, Allen's activism continued in other forms. In the midst of the 1793 yellow fever epidemic in Philadelphia, Allen and Absalom Jones organized efforts to care for the sick and dying, defying racist misconceptions that black people were immune to the disease. Furthermore, Allen played a key role in organizing the first Negro Convention in 1830, which brought together black leaders from 7 states to discuss the rights of black Americans, abolition, and other issues of national importance. This event was the beginning of a larger movement known as the Negro Convention movement, which aimed to organize black Americans for social and political change. Richard Allen's influence extended beyond the pulpit. From 1797 until his death, he operated a station on the Underground Railroad in Philadelphia, helping enslaved people escape from southern states to freedom. His church, Mother Bethel, became a key institution in the abolitionist movement, providing refuge and support to those fleeing slavery. Allen's preaching style was rooted in evangelical traditions, often delivered extemporaneously rather than from a script. He focused on themes such as abolition, education, temperance, and the social upliftment of black people. His preaching was not just about spiritual salvation but about practical action, encouraging his congregants to fight for their rights and dignity in society. Richard Allen died on March 26, 1831, and was buried at Mother Bethel Church in Philadelphia. He left behind a legacy that profoundly impacted both religious and social spheres, and his efforts in building the AME Church helped create a foundation for black religious and cultural identity in America. Richard Allen's contributions have been recognized in numerous ways. His story has been featured in radio dramas, books, and documentaries, and institutions bearing his name continue to honor his memory. The Richard Allen Preparatory School in Philadelphia, the Allen University in South Carolina, and the Richard Allen Homes in Philadelphia are all named in his honor. In 2016, a life-sized statue of Allen was erected at Mother Bethel Church, and a mural celebrating his legacy was unveiled in Philadelphia. In 2002, historian Molefi Kita-Sonti named Allen as one of the 100 greatest African Americans for his contributions to the black community and the nation as a whole. More recently, a park in Radnor Township, Pennsylvania, was renamed in his honor, and streets in Philadelphia have been attributed to his name. Our Anthropology deeply thanks Richard Allen for his profound legacy. His determination and faith have inspired countless individuals to fight for social justice, religious freedom, and equality, laying the groundwork for future generations to build upon. Through his leadership and commitment to both faith and activism, Richard Allen's life continues to inspire movements for change, reminding us all of the enduring power of collective action in the pursuit of justice. We thank you for supporting, and we'll be back on Friday with another biopic.